Logic is great, but one needs transformational storytelling to create the magic that paves the way for the future. That's why storytelling is key. Stories have stood the test of time since the beginning of humanity, and they will continue to hold the power over us, regardless of how giant the technological strides are. Ladies and gentlemen, can you put our hands together for our first keynote speaker, Mr. Abhishek Bhattacharjee?
Right. Good afternoon, guys. Yeah. Well, this slot is kind of tricky. It's the first slot, so everyone pays attention. But it's the first slot after lunch, so everyone doesn't pay attention. So I'll try my best. Customer engagement forum, right? We are all talking about customer engagement and how we can do better and so on and so forth. I think the people in the room, we have enough and more experience, enough and more exposure to this whole topic. But what I want to do here is throw in a little bit of a tangent and kind of see if that is something that we have explored enough or if it is something that we should look into. So hence the topic of future-proofing engagement, right? So before we get started, so what is engagement really? I mean, you guys heard about the little intro that we were talking about. Engagement, what I feel personally, is really about attention. We want people to pay attention to us as humans, as brands, as any relationship you may talk about. It's just about getting attention. Do we all agree to that? Yeah? So, okay, attention. And attention is best held by stories. Now, stories have been around for the longest time. This is the Greek mythology, painting. We talk about Indian mythology. You talk about any form of mythology. You talk about religion. You talk about anything under the universe, under the sun. It's all stories. And stories passed down through generations. Stories which catch our fancy. Stories which intrigue us, and stories which engage with us. Right. So storytelling is at the crux of holding your attention, and that is exactly why storytelling still exists in different forms as the key to customer engagement. And rightfully so. In the advertising industry, we all recall this particular iconic ad. In the advertising industry, this was years ago, but the line of thinking is still the same. It's a story. So ads have always been stories. Now the story could be, come, I have a great product for you, please come and buy me, or else I have a great experience for you, please come and buy me, and so on and so forth. Now, back in the day, it was a little less difficult, simply because it was about gaining mass reach. It was about getting the maximum number of people to reach out to and tell them that, listen, I have a great story for all of you. And hope and pray that most of them would agree to you, or rather the brand would go by such, right? It was easier then because it was a lot more uniform audience. It was uniform simply because this was how it looked like, the living room, a TV with everyone watching the same program, right? It's not like there are 5 different screens with people looking at different screens at the same time in the same living room. 5 people watching the same screen. So all we needed to do was get eyeballs, right? So that's where it all started. So newspaper and everything else, it was all about eyeballs. Stories demanded eyeballs. Customer engagement demanded eyeballs. And that's how it went. But then something happened. Down the line, as it evolved, this man came out with the World Wide Web. And we all know what the World Wide Web is. It's kind of changed our lives dramatically since then. As a marketer, as an individual, as your different roles you play in your life, it's just changed. And this man just came out with 3 little letters, www, and things were never the same after that, right? What happened then was, when you recall that eyeballs was 4 people looking at the same TV screen, it changed to, boom, everyone with one screen in front of them, everyone doing something else, everyone with one personal laptop, right? It wasn't enough. It didn't stop there. Like we thought that was it, that was it, right? When we had the PCs and everyone working on it, that was it. That's fine, we can deal with it. There is one TV, there is one laptop, we can deal with it. But no, then this happened. The smartphone. The screens became smaller, the screens came up on your music devices. Steve Jobs, fantastic creator that he was, created a whole new plethora of problems for the marketers looking to delve into customer engagement. Right. Then we said, okay, let's be strong about it. Okay, we have moved on from TV to the laptop. We can deal with the smartphone. It's fine. But then it didn't stop there. Then these two buggers came around, and then it got even more fragmented. Social media happened, and then before we could know it, everything and everyone was a different individual. So from 4 people or 5 people living in the living room looking at the TV and we're running after customer engagement with them, it has now become one person everywhere looking at one screen. So there are stories everywhere. There are screens in front of each one of us with different multiple screens and stories and stories and stories and stories. Every screen is presenting. Every screen multiplied by the number of brands, multiplied by the number of impressions they're serving and so on. Imagine the amount of stories that get generated by brands today on not even an hourly basis, by the minute. I mean, we could get on the numbers, but that's a different point altogether, right? So stories are everywhere. So there was one key shift that was needed as marketers, right? One very, very desperate and necessary imperative that was on the brink. From macro, from looking at it as one whole Simpsons family, we started to look at micro, like what is this character all about? What is that character all about? What does he like? What kind of stories does this person like versus the other? So we got fragmented, the media got fragmented, individualism got real, and there was a whole new set of, I call it the mevolution. Everyone is individual. Everyone's Facebook feed is different from the next person. Everyone's Netflix feed is different from the next person. Everyone gets served different ads, sometimes based on your demographics, sometimes based on your behavior online and so on and so forth. Right? So at this point, so that's pretty much the journey what we have come through, right from the storytelling of the Greek mythology and the mythological days till now. The stories still exist, but they have just multiplied exponentially. Right? How do we tackle that? So now there are 2 basic questions that we need to understand. Is that the customer asks us, so first thing, what is your story? Now let us be clear about it. Storytelling is key. The story is at the heart of it. What we say is at the heart of it. But what is also important is to understand, why should I care? Now I have a product for probably anti-balding, for example. Some of you in this room might require it, but the rest won't, right? So if I put up a TV screen here and I put up an anti-balding product, like half of you would be, I don't care about it, I don't need it, right? So for me, it's important to understand that a few of us, including myself, would care about that story that I am going to tell you. Now to understand that, who needs my product? Who needs to see my story? Who needs to engage? That is the stepping stone to customer engagement. If we get that part right, telling the story comes after that. That's also an important part, but that can be handled differently. First things first is to understand, who are we speaking to? Who is the right person? Do we know exactly what they want? So reading minds is necessary, right? We need to understand, right? I don't know, looking here, it looks a little vague. Somebody out there might need that anti-balding product, but I'm not sure, right? So I'm trying to read minds, who might need it. And believe you me, that thing is done best with data. We all will agree to that. Now data, when we speak this little word, data, it throws an entirely different image to our minds today than what it actually is. In simplistic terms, data has been around for generations, for years, for millennia, and we have been dealing with it for the longest time without realizing it. It's now just been, made glamorous. It's now just become made more scientific, made to appear more magical. But it has been at the crux of customer engagement for a long, long time, right? We have used data to get relevant customers for a long time. It's not new, and that's where the problem lies, that we have actually done that in a long time. For example, when we were talking about TV planning and 5 people living in the looking at the TV in the living room, right? We used to do genre targeting, did we not? Is that not data? Of course it is. Yes, it is not like micro level audience data and so on and so forth, but it is data. It is about a content that somebody would be likely to watch, and hence I'm trying to read their mind to say that these people who are watching this particular genre of programming will be liable to buy my story. We did website targeting. Those days where placement ads were the king. Yahoo Finance, or for example any other website that we used to target, that is data. In a different form. We used to do radio station targeting, again by music types. What kind of music? Is the person a hip hop guy? Is the person a little more of a jazz guy? Maybe the jazz guy needs the antibody product and not the hip hop guy. He's probably got dreadlocks on him, right? So we did some kind of data analysis all the time, and we have been doing it. Publication, what kind of news? Is it a business newspaper? Is it a tabloid? What kind of page within that should my ad go on to? So placement advertising has been fueled by data for the longest time, and we might not be cognizant of it at this point in time where data is over glorified, but it is true. Native ads within the same content. Basically, what we are saying is, when we started looking at customers and finding relevant customers for engagement, we have been using data in this particular filter as content. So we have taken content that they're consuming and used that as a filter or a data filter to reach out to relevant audiences. But that was the TV era and the newspaper era and the radio station era. What happened next? After the www boom happened, we came into behavior. What kind of sites did he go to? We came into affinity. What kind of sites has he spent more time on? We went to retarget. Which websites did he go to and drop off? We went to social. We went to emails. We went to search. What kind of things are they searching? And so on and so forth. So largely, based on online behavior and context, we were again layering that with another level of data to read minds, to understand who is the right person we are talking to in terms of the story that we want to push, right? So first was content, then we used things like these, which was context. So if you really look at it, content was about content level data filtering, then came context based on behavior and other stuff that they're doing and what context they are in, and hence we target them, right? So we got very good at it actually. Until now, we are using it in different ways, and we are using it day in, day out. And this is something, 135 billion and counting in terms of search volumes, search spending, SEM on Google, right? That is something. That's a whole chunk of money going after trying to understand what person I should go after in terms of the context of search behavior. Knocking on 100 billion is programmatic advertising across the world. $100 billion, that's the size of programmatic ad industry. That's also about talking to someone in context. Right? We spoke about content with placement advertising, we spoke about context with audience advertising, and that's how good we have gotten at it. We haven't stopped at that. We have even got into programmatic TV buying now with addressable TV audiences across the globe, and most countries are now able to target audiences based on the context rather than just the content on television. So those are new frontiers we are overcoming on a regular basis. But here is where the question lies. It might not be enough for the future. And I raised this for one very, very simple point. I was having lunch earlier. I was talking to the lady from Thailand there, and I was telling her, all this data, the content and the context and that we are using, uses 25% of our daily insight pool. Average time spent is 642 online, worldwide. Yeah? How many hours are there in a day? 24. And we are basing our analysis, basing our targeting, basing our data filtration on 25% of the time spent in the whole day of audiences, because most of it is online. All the data that we are talking about in terms of contextual, everything else is about what screen time you're doing, which content you're consuming, and so on and so forth. But that accounts for 25% of your day. What happens to the 75% of your day? Are you an entirely different beast the other parts of the day? You could be. I don't know. But if I'm basing my story on the 25%, I might be suboptimal. I wouldn't say we are wrong, but we are suboptimal because there is still 75% of the day which can give you insights which could be more valuable, right? The question lies is this: where is my offline data? Right? Now don't tell me Nielsen and everything else, I mean that's been around, but that's not really offline data. That's, I mean, we can all debate about the methodology as well. And is my offline and online data even synced? Do I even know this person as offline behavior and online behavior put together? We do a great job at going to clients and telling them that, listen, you guys got to have a unique consumer profile on our dashboard of people, lifetime value analysis and so on. Are we doing the same thing about our people we're reaching out to? Maybe not. Because we're basing it on suboptimal data of 25%. Now the question is, where is my offline data? And that is where the third thing, or the third C of targeting comes into play, and which will probably help us future-proof consumer engagement, which is coordinates, right? Coordinates is where you are or what context you are in a physical world on a real-time basis. That's your coordinates, right? So we spoke about content, we spoke about context, we got damn good at it, but what is missing right now is coordinates, right? Now the question is, how do we gain those coordinates? We'll come to that. But why is it important in the first place? Let's go into this series, right? What's more important series? I call it what's more important, right? Everything that we do is about telling brand stories, about customer engagement for brands, right? So let's take a few brands into picture and understand what is more important. Say you're a car brand. So you can see this. What is more important? Is it website visits or showroom visits? Right? I would imagine showroom visits, right? Because that's where you buy the car, right? That's where you do the test drive. That's where you experience the product story, right? But do we have data on that? Not always. Do we have data on the website visits? All the time. Do we drive people to traffic to the website? All the time. Do we drive people to the showroom and measure it to see? Maybe not. Maybe we should. Same for, say, a F&B restaurant. What's more important, website visits or competitor store visits? Who is more important to me? People who have come to my website to check out the new menu and I don't know where they are anymore? Where they live, where they work, I don't know. Or who is more important? I know the person who's eating at the McDonald's if I'm a KFC, or I know the person who's eating at my competitor food joint 3 times a month. Is that not more important? Is that person not the right guy to tell my story that I have a promo meal? So yes, so that is the level of importance that coordinates bring along. Similarly for a bank, right? Web habits or merchant visits. I have a credit card, I want to drive usage for my credit card. Do I not need to know what kind of merchants this person goes to, which is on my list where I can push my promo? Or do I just sit back and see how many times he's come to the website or which other products he has bought? Yes, that is important, but that is more important as well, right? Similarly for a mall, what is more important, affinity or proximity? You get the drift. Similarly for outdoor, right? We plan for outdoor media. What is more important, traffic/impressions or actionable audience? Do I not need to know how many people have actually seen my outdoor and how many of them have actually walked into my store? Is that data not powerful? Or is that data not useful for me to tell you a story? That, for example, if you have seen my outdoor which talks about a fantastic promo that I have, and I know that you have been exposed to that ad, can I not retarget you to take that story further and convert you? In whatever industry we are in, for example, a car showroom or whatever else, right? So that data becomes important. Now without coordinates, we are just playing on the left side of the screen. We are not jumping over to the next. We are just talking about traffic or impressions. This outdoor is fantastic because it's got 15 million traffic passing through this point every day. Do we know for sure? We don't. Who's counting the cars? We don't. But if we track the coordinates through the mobile device ID, then we know who has been in the proximity of that particular outdoor billboard that we have brought, for how much, and how many of them have actually turned up at the location that we want to sell. So that becomes powerful. So coordinates is what we feel will be the third most essential C in terms of consumer engagement if we were to move forward. Yeah, because we have gotten damn good at context, believe me or not. But that's not all. Imagine if we did put into motion this whole revolution for coordinates, what else could we get? Why is it more important? We get home office location, we get footfall attribution, out-of-home planner, competitive reviews, competitor hijack, and so on and so forth, and many more such things, right? Multiple applications. Would you not want to know that if your competitor did a campaign for a promo, how many of them have actually come to their showroom so that you can tell whether that campaign has been successful or not? Right now, we depend on marketing magazines pushing out editorials to say, oh, this one feels like a winner campaign, right? Or maybe they have gotten some awards. We don't know for sure. So would footfall mapping not be a valid measure to understand many more things, to understand your consumers better so that you could tell the more relevant story moving forward for your brand? And isn't it really ironic or poetic or whatever you might call it, that the device that we carry, which created so many troubles for us as marketers by fragmenting the media, is after all the solution to that as well? Because through that mobile advertiser ID or MAID as we know it, is what you could leverage to gain the coordinate data. Yeah? And through that coordinate data coupled with context and content, only then would you get a unique consumer profile which allows us to then highlight which audience profiles deserve to be told which consumer stories, and hence which consumer stories are more converting for us or not. And that we believe, or I believe personally, to be the frontier, the next frontier we need to leap over, and that is how we future-proof consumer engagement. But one thing is for key, storytelling remains key, but let content, context, and coordinates be the insight. So that's the insight engine that we look forward to as future-proofing consumer engagement. Thank you. Any questions, guys? Please feel free to shout out. I still have 2 minutes, I believe. Yeah. Yes, please. Gentleman in white.
Abhishek, that was great. Thank you. I enjoyed that a lot. I have a question for you. How far off do you think we are on preciseness of coordinates? You know, I use this because the cab dropped me off at Marina One Square, which was across the street, and I had to walk across in the rain, right? So obviously even GPS doesn't know how to get people in places. How far off do you think of that precise 3-meter square, so I know you're at a competitor? How far, and what is the technology that's existing or coming out?
Very great question. Thank you for that. Yes, the accuracy is a challenge. Yes, the accuracy is a challenge, but however, there have been major strides that have been made into that as well. Right now, there are many service providers which we work with who are very good at polygon mapping at multiple level of data flow mapping and so on. So the accuracy that we have faced is up to 80 to 85% accuracy, right, already. Now, it also depends on the multiple sources from which the data comes in, right? So there is this advertiser ID. When an ad gets served to your phone, there are multiple location pings that comes back to you. That's one of the sources. There is a cell phone tower source. There is a GPS source, and then there is the Wi-Fi source nearby as well. So once you triangulate all these three, then you kind of minimize the level of error, margin of error in terms of accuracy. It's not going to be 100% absolutely for sure. But as long as you get a 90% or 85, 90%, it's still great. I mean, come on, look at this way. The online ad industry has got 70% viewability, 30% goes to waste, right? We're still doing about billions of dollars into that and adding some value. In terms of that, when you talk about location data, we are actually quite good. It's just a matter of understanding which service provider has got the necessary technology to drive your accuracy better. And it will vary from market to market. Yeah. Any other questions, guys? All right. Thank you so much. Thanks so much, guys.